Hello, I'm Sue Rose Minahan, and I'm host. Also, this is Now.Chat, April 3, 2021, and I'm also a host of a podcast YouTube channel, Talk Cosmos, every Sunday. So, this subject we are going to talk about, in a sense, because Mars is out of bound right now, and the natal USA chart, our Mars natally is also out of bounds, most incredibly. It happens just about every year, but it only happens for Mars out of bounds around the solstices. So our natal birthday is around July 4th. And so our Gemini Mars is out of bounds, and it's going to have a return, which happens every 2 years, meaning that the orbit comes around to the same point. Now, that can be just like anything in life, many influences. Okay, so that's the backdrop. And Mars out of bounds, you wonder, what is that? It's when the qualities of that energy, and all the planets have qualities, and all the signs have qualities of energy that's a developmental process, are out of bounds. It means they can go the furthest to good, the bad, well, relatively speaking. And Mars has assertion, Mars has courage, Mars has discovery, Mars has anger. It's a god of war. We've seen unbelievable sequence of violence just in this last week. It went out of bounds as of March 29th. And no, actually, I'm messing myself up here, as of March 21st. And it will continue for about 2 months. So Sunday, we're going to talk about that with the Cosmic Collaboration panel. Today, I'm talking about George Floyd, the individual who was murdered, as the trial is about, in Minneapolis, in the Twin Cities, which I want to thread in something about that name. Last summer, by Derek Chauvin, if I'm saying his name correctly, an officer that even the sergeant that has since retired that supervised him said, if you are handcuffed and not moving, no need to continue restraints. That's common sense. So where does this mentality come from? We know it has a lot of hatred involved. There is a whole movement, Black Lives Matter, to bring it out to our focus of thinking and consciousness, so that we can start, as so many people have been speaking about, Black and white, and many Black. Hey, we are people. Let's get this down to humanities. And it is extraordinary. As it has been said, why do we even have to mention that we need humanity, consciousness, that lives, the individuality of a life, and the vulnerability of all of us? Oh, I could go on so many tangents, because I think out of this, there's many consciousnesses that we need to embrace and start acting on. One of them is, why kill somebody over a lousy pack of cigarettes? It's like, let's look at the offense and realize what needs to be done. In other words, thievery has always been, it's not anything that anybody likes. Nobody likes to have their property taken, of course. But yet, what kind of restraints are we using? Where does this come back from? Well, the first rules of law and possible death sentences, because this was ultimately a death sentence, came back in 1800 BC, and the first laws with King Hammurabi of Babylon, the Tigris Euphrates rivers, where Sumeria was, along with the city of Babylonia, and started during that whole the civilization, because writing and became, well, I could go on and on about these details, but are they really necessary? Um, so the fact is that there's a big, I saw it in Chicago at the museum of Eastern Oriental, has a title to it, and it's a big obelisk about 6 feet high, and it's a couple feet square with all the different codes. It's his code, the laws of codes, that there was a code of standard that people would adhere to for a civilization to have government, writing, um, exchange of monies, and there's two other factors that make a civilization. So let's fast forward to England. As of England, in 16, I think it was 88, they began these laws, historically, that became the bloody code in 1800s, because by the time the USA declared their independence in 1776, there was 150 different reasons that offenses that people could be hung for, could be killed. And by 1815, when they did the bloody code, as it was referred to, there was 220. Some of them were totally ludicrous. It was to try to prevent thievery from property. Well, it really was a class distinction. And there were many instances that went along where the judicial people would say, you know, the crime is like, this person is the mother or father of so many children, and they just wanted sugar or bread, and we're going to put the value very, very low, because the value was um, perhaps, I think, half a mark. I've read different factors because I didn't really thoroughly research. This is a huge subject, but just to tie in where the mentality is coming from, that is shared because ideas get passed along. And we need to look at this like, our natal Mars was out of bounds. This is a time of out of bounds where anger can become so such a factor, as we have seen with unbalanced people. So back to that, they would reduce the fee, the amount, so that these people weren't killed. The last hanging, because often it was hanging, was 1964 in England. We're not talking way back in the 18th century BC. We have come up to a relatively modern time of this consciousness that somehow has some remnant somewhere. And they shifted, thankfully, in England. Well, we're talking the US in 1964. And as I was reminded, that's when the Beatles came out, right? I mean, it's many ways to look at history as far as involving influences. So in this case, we need to recognize as a consciousness, what are we really trying to do? Are we just trying to penalize and kill people? Is that what it's all about? Are we really still at that mentality and emotional and distancing? Or can we begin to realize that our laws have another purpose, and that is to rehabilitate the situations? As now, this court case has been going on since March 29th. That's what I was saying, and it'll go on for about a month. I want to share a few slides. This here. This was actually yesterday, and don't mind the timing, please, but it is for Washington, D.C. And as you can see, there's a stellium in Aries. We're still having, and here's Mars out of bounds, and it's with the North Node. Everybody has got their thinking power of Gemini with the communication going full force ahead in order to communicate in some ways. And some people, if they're very imbalanced, and we have been seeing this in the news, there's been shootings. Well, it started with the Asian, just prior to this, it was because it was March 21st when Mars went out of bounds. There was the Asian hate crime in Atlanta. Then when it actually was out of bounds, it was in Colorado. Well, here is the USA with the transits, and you can see it's so close. On the 9th, it's going to be exact and have this natal return. We need to really start thinking about our consciousness. We're in a time when we're bringing in the transformational energies of Pluto. And we can't go on this way, separated thinking or even empathizing is one thing, but let's get some action. Yes, it's Aries time. Okay, thank you so much. Blessings to you all. And actions that I mean are in the thinking realm. That is part of our national heritage, where we can begin to change these laws. The nodes, the South Node is in, it's ripe for this timing. The South Node is in Sagittarius and the North Node is in communication. So I hope if we can understand that this is a natal energy that we all share and we can all contribute in, which is communication and networking. Well, blessings, blessings. We're only in the beginning of this trial. I hope it's helped a little bit as far as how we might proceed. Thank you. Thank you for your interest and thank you for listening. And I do hope on Sunday you connect with us because I'll have a panel on this idea I just realized, and we will flesh out, as they say, a lot better. Thank you. Or more completely. All right.